Welcome back, everyone. It is Sunday sit-down time. My guest needs no introduction this week. We have Mizzou's new women's basketball coach, Kellie Harper, joining us. Kellie, welcome on to Sunday sit-down, your debut. How are things going for you in Columbia?
They're going very quickly. We've gotten a lot done. It's great to get up here and get integrated in the department. You know, start finding some efficiency in our office, and then also getting to know Columbia a little bit.
How much of a whirlwind has this whole thing been since you got hired and then you waited a couple weeks, finally got introduced this past week here?
Well, you have a lot of things you have to do. I think the first, your team is your priority, your staff, and recruiting. So those three things can keep you busy 24/7. But then we also have some other things we have to get through to help get organized and be able to function productively.
I'm curious, have you gotten to explore Columbia at all? How do you like the city? What are you liking about the town so far?
So everyone told me if I'm going somewhere and I drive more than 15 minutes that I've probably gone too far. So I tested the theory. I decided I had a little time one morning. I tested it out. It's very accurate. You know, it's easy to get around. This is really size-wise and pace and amenities. It's perfect for me and my family.
Well, you know, when you saw that this job was going to be opening up, was this kind of a job that you maybe had your eye on a little bit? You know, what were your initial reactions when this job opened up?
Well, I think one, something I'm very familiar with, but when I got the phone call about the interest, started doing a little bit more homework, it just felt right when I started having conversations. And those conversations were, it's hard to explain, they just felt right, they felt good. I think there was definitely a matching vision. And I felt like the support was going to be there for our program.
You know, when you look at your past experience in the SEC especially, what made you think that you were the right person for this job here at Mizzou?
You know, I think when I started talking about what they wanted, the type of coach they wanted, where they wanted the program to go, I just kept feeling that it was me. Like, it just felt like they were describing their wants and needs to be me, my personality, my character. You know, obviously the SEC is a gauntlet. We know that, but also it's something I'm very familiar with and very comfortable with. Having lived in the state of Missouri also gives me a comfort and a working knowledge of the region, the state and the region. Also very comfortable with that.
Well, you're coming in with high expectations. You know, President Moon Choi said that championships are an expectation. Does that kind of motivate you a little bit when you hear that kind of thing? Is that a fun thing to kind of come into?
It is. But I will tell you this. There's going to be no one that wants to win more than our office. I mean, and our players. They're so hungry to win. Our staff is very uber ultra competitive, so we're going to do everything in our power to move our program up and to compete at the elite level. And obviously that is really hard to do in our league. There's no doubt about it. If you're going to compete, or if you're going to be in the top half of our league, you're one of the best teams in the country. And so I think you have to really embrace that opportunity.
Well, when you look at a Kellie Harper team, what is the mark of a Kellie Harper team on the hardwood?
I think my teams have always been tough. I think played intelligently. I think our teams get better throughout the season. I think that's really important, especially in basketball. We've always done a great job rebounding. We will definitely emphasize that in terms of specifically. You know, I think the other thing we've been able to do is play a style of play that our players enjoy. They like the openness of our system, but finding the comfort in the structure. So there's a good sweet spot there for our players.
When you look at maybe the model of a player that you like to have in your programs, you know, what do you feel like is the best kind of player for your program?
I love good people. I love highly skilled players. You know, obviously I want them also to be athletic and have great size. And I think competitive, driven, players that are knocking on my door, hey, when are we going to shoot? Those are great players for me. They're a great player for a lot of people, but those qualities are valued here, and I think that's important. You know, I want our players to walk away going, man, she loves me. She's going to take care of me.
You mentioned in your introductory press conference that you noticed with this Mizzou team at the SEC tournament, grit and fight, qualities that are hard to teach. How good is that to have that, already here with some of the girls that are here?
I'll tell you what, a lot of times, and this is my 5th program, and a lot of times when you're taking over a program, it's not always pretty. What you are left with or what you have to work with is not always pretty. I am starting with such a good, strong core and nucleus of players that just want to win. They're good people. They work hard. They're enjoyable to be around. We have a great starting point with this group.
How do you kind of balance, this age of college basketball now? How do you balance that roster retention and, hitting into the portal as well?
Well, it's very difficult right now. The landscape is challenging. It's ever changing. I think for us, we have to continue to learn on the fly. I think we have to be very flexible. But I think also where we're positioned, I think just being in this state and, being in Missouri gives us an advantage because we're ahead of the game in terms of what we can do NIL, and I think everybody's tried to follow suit after us. So initially we knew that was going to be a strong point of confidence for us in this landscape.
Well, I want to talk about your days at Tennessee. What do you feel like you learned from, coaching at your alma mater and playing at, the highest level like this in the SEC?
Yeah, I think everywhere you go, you learn a lot. You've been around a lot. If you've been around a lot, you've had a lot of opportunities for growth. And I think for me, every single day, always trying to figure out what I would have done different. And there's always things, right? I'm a lifetime learner, I think, and you're always looking for ways to improve. You can improve good, bad. But I'll say this, when I lay my head down at night, I can go to sleep. I'm not staying up worrying about I didn't do it right. I know I did my best. I know that I tried to get it right every single day. I know that I tried to treat people as fairly as I can treat them. And it's just a good feeling, when you can lay your head down at night.
How much do you feel like that comes from who you played for and Pat Summitt, obviously a legendary coach in this league? How much of your philosophies, how you go about things comes from her? Yeah,
I think as a coach early on, as a young coach, I had my first job at 26. I did try to take some things from her, both court things like X's and O's. That was a whole lot easier when you had All-Americans. It didn't work as well without the All-Americans that she was coaching. But I think for me, she was always classy, I wanted to always look the part. She always had poise in her coaching ability. There are still things that I think about that we did. The other thing about Pat that sometimes gets overlooked, she adapted. Now, she didn't change. She didn't change who she was at the core. She always had her beliefs and it was always going to look a certain way. But as times changed, as the game changed, as the players changed, as the generations changed, I think she adapted. And to me, that is one reason that kept her relevant and kept her in the mix every year for championships.
Well, you kind of hit on it, this new age of college sports in general, you have to be so adaptable. How much has college athletics been changing since you've been in it? I mean, how adaptable have you had to be?
Oh my goodness, it has it's changed tremendously throughout my career. I've been coaching a long time now. Right. And I think you have to adapt. And it's not just, hey, we have to adapt to the new rules, the new playing style. You have those things you have to adapt to. Obviously, you have to adapt to the new way to recruit, and that you have the transfer portal, you have new rules, you have more social media. You have I remember back when they used to email players. You don't email players anymore. There's different ways of communication. But then also the generation's different. So kids are different. And I think as a coach, we have to embrace that. We can't just look at it and say, oh, they don't do what we did. No, I mean, they have a lot they're going through. It's hard to be young these days, and I think that's the approach we have to take. We've got to be there to support them, and so I think that's where I've probably grown and learned throughout the years to be there for your players, whatever they need.
Well, it's such an exciting time in women's athletics, but especially in women's basketball. It's getting so much attention now. You know, how exciting is it to be back a party and back on the coaching side of things now in this exciting time?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a huge upward trend for women's basketball nationwide. You know, the WNBA is hot. We've had a lot of stellar players in college women's basketball. A lot of media attention to some coaches and some teams and some programs, and I think people understand we've got a pretty good product. You know, when you look nationwide, and obviously the SEC in particular has a great product. And as we you know, as we take this journey here, we want to be a part of that. We want to be a part of that buzz. And I think, you know, the really cool thing about Columbia is they want to be here. They want to see this program have success. And, you know, I think if we go out there and give them what they want, let's go out there and be competitive and play with great passion. I think we're going to find wins, and we're going to have a great atmosphere.
You know, a heck of a lot of people showed up for your introductory press conference, standing room only in there. You know, how impressive was that to see?
Oh, I didn't know what to expect. You know, and it was the biggest press conference that I've had in terms of number of people there. What an outpouring of support from the community. We had a few people make some drives to get there, but it was really neat. And then being able to visit with a few of those fans that I feel like everybody in there has been in here since the arena opened. I mean, they just loved it, and they just wanted to be there, reach out and lend their support and admiration and hopes. And to be honest with you, they're hopes, and that's exciting.
You know, what's your message to the fan base as you take over this program?
I think you're going to want to see this. I think you're going to want to see the journey that we are about to take with this basketball team. And, you know, we're going to have some humps and bumps along the way, but I do believe you're going to be able to watch and see the growth and the excitement, and you want to be a part of that. We're all doing this together, so come be a part of it.
Kellie, I appreciate you making the time. Welcome to Columbia.
Thank you.
Awesome. For the rest of you guys, we'll be right back after the break.